And welcome back, Irish Stu Allen here alongside Freaky Lee Burton with your Women of Wrestling podcast here on ringbellsonline.com. Lee, we're struggling into our 30s, podcast 31.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it?
I don't know. I don't think I did, but
that's such poor grammar, by the way.
I'm pleased we're here nonetheless. Yeah, we're going into a big week coming up now, or a big weekend with Chikara presenting Joshi Mania across 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Philadelphia, Massachusetts, Everett, Mass, and Manhattan. And we've got Mike Quackenbush coming up on the show later on to talk about that and get the anticipation station started.
I'm officially gutted that I can't go to Joshi Mania. When I heard about these shows, I was thinking, what can I do to get there? And selling blood, kidneys, anything was all on the list.
They all flick through our mind at some point. But yeah, can't make it, but we'll be getting the DVDs as soon as they become available. There have been a couple of pullouts through injury. Command Bolshoi and mostly Meiko Satomura, who, you know, is one of my favorites of all time. I would love to see Satomura live. They can't make it, although Satomura will be there. But they've got some pretty adequate replacements, and to replace Satomura with Ayako Hamada in the main event of 2 of the nights is pretty damn tasty too.
That's a very nice prospect, because now you got Hamada versus Aja Kong. We already had Del Rey versus Aja Kong as well, so as main events just look so sweet.
Yes, and then the main event of the last night is Hamada versus Del Rey, and we saw that match actually once at Shimmer, and it was incredible.
Well, it was pretty much one of the best matches in Shimmer history, wasn't it?
Yes. So if you're able to get to Joshi Mania, we envy you greatly. And if you
do go, by the way, let us know how it was, because we'd really like to get some from the scene kind of accounts of it to let us know what the atmosphere was like, what it was like to meet the Joshis, how accessible they were, that kind of thing.
Yes. So we got Mike coming up later to talk about that. But before that, we're going to welcome on a brand new name, which I'm assuming 99% of the people listening to the podcast may have never heard of yet.
But that's the point of these podcasts, ladies and gents.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've never heard of Holly Rocamora, stick around. She's going to be our first guest. She's good. She's just been announced over this past weekend as being added to the Pro Wrestling Eve roster. She's going to be wrestling Nikki Storm next month in Nottingham. So if you're a UK-based fan, and we know obviously there are plenty of them, check that out and make your way to Gym Combat if you can next month.
Let's talk a little bit about things that have happened, because we were both at the WAWW show last week.
Yes, we were.
Which was, as far as getting there was concerned, it wasn't bad. Getting back, fog. I'm going to die. It's fog.
Yes, the drive home from that weekend was one of the scariest things either of us have had to do. We both went in completely different directions.
And both thought we were going to die.
And we both thought we were going to die on a windy road in the middle of Norfolk with some of the worst fog I've seen in a long time. But
that shouldn't take away from the show in itself.
No.
It was pretty damn entertaining.
Yes, it was. It was WAWW's return after a few years. I was at some of the previous incarnations of WAWW as well.
This was my first.
Yeah, this was a first show for all intents and purposes, and it felt like that. It felt like a bunch of people trying to make a first impression.
There's a lot of rebooting as far as the championships were concerned as well.
Yes, it was very much a jumping on point for people. 3 new champions crowned? 2 new champions crowned? 3
new champions crowned. The final 3 matches were all title matches.
Indeed so.
And all won by the Rudos, ladies and gents.
Indeed. But yeah, as far as the show's concerned, I mean, there will be a DVD coming out soon, so I would encourage anybody to go and check that out to see some new talent. I mean, in the UK, certainly there's going to be a bit of an appetite for that DVD. If you're across the water in the US or across Europe or anywhere across the world, you'll have seen Saraya Knight. She made quite an impression. Her and Brittany both made quite an impression on recent Shimmer trips, and Alison Danger was on the shows as well. So, you know, if you can drop a few dollars or whatever, go and check it out. You see some good new talent as well. There were some people I saw for the first time as well there as well.
Yeah, and it might be interesting for somebody, well, for example, American listeners who buy it, because it's got a British flavour to it. It's got a British style. It's got more traditional British style as well, hasn't it? Lots of sort of
Public
I don't know how
warnings.
to pronounce it. Yes, I think you would probably be able to describe this better than I can, because I'm not very good with words.
You're the broadcast journalist, dude.
Indeed, I am, but I'm only very good when I've got a script in front of me.
Right, but yeah, as far as the show's concerned, I mean, it's not. I mean, no one should even try to compare the production values or what they're trying to do at WAWW to something like Shimmer, for example. You know, it's very independent. It's very British. It's got that style. But what it has got is it's got a bunch of girls trying to make a good first impression for people who check out this DVD and people who came to the shows. I'm going to throw out a shout out as well to a couple of unexpected additions to the show. That was two of the people that we absolutely fell in love with at the last Eve versus Ice Ribbon shows, and that was Viper and Kirsty Love. Both showed up to this show as well.
Who are still awesome.
Yes, and if they could be in every show that I ever went to from now on for the rest of the time, I think I'll be quite happy.
Yeah, I'd be very happy with that as well. I think Kirsty Love is fantastic. Viper, I think, made massive strides.
Yeah, she got the team with Destiny. And, I mean, you know, the obvious thing when you see Viper for the first time, if you know of Destiny, you will mentally make that connection that she's like a younger Destiny. And, of course, when she went to WAWW, the first thing they did was team her up with Destiny.
Of course.
And, you know, I think it lit a fire under Destiny as well, because all of a sudden she had a woman to work with who was, you know, of a similar sort of body shape, similar style, bruiser, you know, go in there and beat up these girls, and I think it really lit a fire under her as well, which was nice to see.
Absolutely. All of these results and all of our thoughts are also still on the website, so you can check those out. We were there. We got lots of photos. We had lots of thoughts about it. We pretty much covered it in quite a comprehensive style.
Yeah, a couple of videos as well. So check all those out. Last weekend as well, though, whilst we were in Norfolk for WAWW.
Contemplating death.
Contemplating death with the freezing fog. WSU ran its last iPay-per-view and was headlined by the War Games match between Team WSU and the Midwest Militia. Now, neither of us have had a chance to see the show yet. Jennifer on the site did, and there's her review on the site as well. So if you want to get some impressions on that, check it out. We are really only talking on what we've read rather than what we've seen at the minute, but the main event finished with a crazy angle, and I don't at this moment know what I think about it.
I had a think about it.
Okay.
And yeah, I like the innovacy. Is that a word?
No.
It is now. I like how it's an innovative. Hey, that's better. I like how it's an innovative angle for the match. You know, threatening to kill somebody with a machete in order to make the other team surrender.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. I don't know if I'm comfortable with threatening death or threatening murder as far as the show's concerned.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I mean, as wrestling fans, we're willing to and we're happy to suspend disbelief for a lot of stuff. But when it gets to the point where someone's, you know, threatening to, you know, gore someone with a machete, you're thinking, hang on a minute now, this is
an actual crime.
This is not going to happen. So therefore, it kind of brings you out of the moment a bit. In saying that, if anybody was going to get away with it, it would be Jessica Havoc.
Absolutely.
So that's why I'm kind of loath to, whilst part of me wants to say, this is stupid, part of me, I really want to see that bit first to get to have my own opinion of it, because in the circumstances it might well work. And I think some people have said that it did, and some people have said that it didn't. So I think it's one of those things where, again, depending on how you view wrestling or how much you're willing to suspend your disbelief, depends on how much you liked it. But it was innovative, I will give you that.
I have a concern/interest as to where the angle between Havoc and Mercedes goes now.
Where do you go from threatening?
Because you've already threatened to murder your opponent, but now they're wrestling next in March for the WSU title.
Yeah. And
anything short of a murder is almost going to be like a come down, is it not?
Possibly. And if they come out and start the match with a collar and elbow tie-up, that's gonna be weird too. So yeah,
but we'll wait and see. We'll leave open minds. I just personally, I just felt a little uncomfortable with somebody threatening to stab somebody else.
Yes. The other big match on that show we'll mention as well was Molina's return to the Indies. She was, of course, as we know from the last podcast, supposed to be wrestling Serena Deeb, who, of course, has suffered her injury, and we continue to wish her all the best for her continual recovery. She, speaking about Molina, ended up taking on Lexus.
Yeah, Lexus had a bit of push recently as far as the DVD editions of WSU are concerned that happened earlier on in the summer when she wrestled Mercedes Martinez for 73 minutes.
Yes.
So I think as far as logic is concerned, trying to push new stars, Lexus was a good choice. But I think if you'd have bought that show on the anticipation of Molina versus Serena, and you got Molina versus Lexus, you may feel a little bit like this isn't the same kind of match.
Yeah.
Nothing against Lexus.
No.
Nothing against Lexus at all. No. But I think when you kind of build two former WWE divas meeting for the first time in an independent ring on iPay-per-view.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I mean, again, going only from reading tweets as they were coming in live that night in the Travelodge in Norfolk, to reading some reviews after the fact. I think, the crowd weren't necessarily up for the Lexus appearance at the start anyway. They didn't see her on a similar sort of star as Serena. So, good opportunity for Lexus nonetheless, and it does get her name out there as they continue to try and push her up the card a bit. So,
what I think is that if WSU had maybe gone with announcing Lexus as the opponent beforehand and built her up with some promos and stuff,
perhaps
like they did with her match with Mercedes, which actually generated a buzz by the time that match came around, it might have been a different thing. Because I think maybe as a surprise, you kind of feel a little bit deflated. But if there had been some hype and some build-up for it, that could have been a very anticipated match.
Yeah, give people a reason to care about Lexus. And maybe even had Lexus cut a promo or something on her as well. So, yeah, there are things there, and there are lessons to be learned. I mean, WSU ended up in a very awkward position.
Absolutely, I think that
when Serena came down with her injury. So,
well, yeah, their top 6 biggest stars were all in the same match at the top of the card. So it kind of leaves you with some awkward situations because you're not exactly going to have them wrestle twice because War Games is very, very intensive.
Yes, and presumably as well, there probably may not have been the money in the budget to start bringing in more fly-in stars as well. So you were kind of stuck with who you had there on the day. And again, as I say, not a bad choice, but But
WSU is a good choice to push a new star, build them up, give them some superstar rub. Can't fault that.
Yeah. So there you go. But WSU's next big show then will be at the start of March. It's going to be their big show with Mercedes Martinez against Jessica Havoc for the belt.
Before that, though, they do have a show on January 21st, which involves Amber, Lexus, Sassy Steffi, and Alison Kay versus and Tina San Antonio versus Marty Bell, Brittany Savage, Alicia, Jana, and Luscious Latasha.
Indeed, that's a joint show, is it not?
It is. But it's got this WSU affiliated match taking place on it. A bit like the Great Championship Wrestling matches that we had recently where the Spirit title changed hands from Steffi to Reign to Jessica Havoc.
Which is going to be available now on a DVD as well, with Maria Kanellis offering opinions on what happened in the ring.
Just as far as other results are concerned, big one that happened just this weekend, Ayumi Kurihara becoming the CMLL World Women's Champion. Yes,
interesting one this. Kurihara had the opportunity to challenge the previous champion. I don't mean Marcella. I mean Amapola, who had been the champion since 2007. A couple of months ago, was unsuccessful. Amapola, in the meantime, dropped the belt to Marcella, who then dropped the belt to Kurihara. So
that's the shortest reign in CMLL women's title history.
Yeah, I mean, I remember writing at the time when Marcella won the belt that we probably shouldn't expect any title changes anytime soon.
You were wrong.
CMLL tends to be a very conservative organisation, and it is still a very conservative organisation as far as stuff like that's concerned, but obviously in this case the long-term plan was to get the belt on Kurihara, And
without Kurihara beating Amapola for it.
Exactly. So I guess that probably sets up a rematch down the line, or another match with perhaps Kurihara defending against Amapola.
Possibly, yeah. Just to have it in perspective for you, Amapola held the title for 1,442 days. Marcella held it for 29.
Not even a month. Yeah, but good win though for Kurihara.
Absolutely, it's the biggest title win of her career.
Possibly. It's up there with the Neo Championship at the end of last year. That was the Neo Championship as the promotion died, admittedly, but beating Tamura for that belt at the time was a massive thing for her as well. And she's the one half of the Shimmer Tag Champs at the minute as well. So
and half of the Wave Tag Champs.
Yes, hell of a year for Kurihara, actually.
Big time, yeah.
In respect. Speaking of people who've had big years, we've been considering our decision for Wrestler of the Year this year. I think it's fair to say that Kurihara is going to be a heavy contender for that.
There are quite a few people vying for this. We picked Madison Eagles last year, and then lo and behold, Pro Wrestling Illustrated also gave her the top spot. Not to say that we influenced PWI in any way.
Yeah.
But we did.
All right. But yeah, we're hopefully going to be announcing that coming up next month. We're probably hopefully going to, if we can, deliver another couple of podcasts next month as well.
That's the hope.
So one of those should be our Christmas show. We're playing about with ideas for that, and we will see how we do.
Anyway, on to the present.
Yes.
Coming up right now, we have, ahead of our interview with Mike Quackenbush about Joshi Mania, we have, as we mentioned earlier, the newest addition to the Pro Wrestling Eve roster. It's Holly Rocamora.
Okay, we're back on the Women of Wrestling podcast with our first guest of the show today. Just announced over this past weekend as being added to the Pro Wrestling Eve roster. Will be making her debut for NBW Southside Wrestling on the 10th of December at Gym Combat Nottingham. I'm talking about Holly Rocamora. Holly, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you guys.
First off, it's a bit of a name change because we have known you in the past as Holly D, haven't we?
Yes. I did. I used to be under Holly D to be my modelling name, but I thought I wanted to kind of change that and kind of separate myself to seeing I am actually taking wrestling seriously with the name change.
But it's also got a good rhythm as far as the surname is concerned. You can chant to it. So that's thumbs up.
Yeah, that as long as that works, that's fine.
It is one of those names that's fun to say. I will say that. Yeah.
It's got a rhythm.
It's got a rhythm and you can dance to it. So, Holly, question I have then for you, the very first question is that a lot of people who listen to this, they're probably not going to know who you are. They maybe haven't heard of you before. They've maybe just seen the Eve announcement. For those people who don't know anything about you, how did you get into pro wrestling in the first place?
Basically, I actually threw myself into the deep end. One of my friends showed me the TNA Gut Check website a year ago and said, well, you should apply for it. I said I hadn't had any wrestling experience at all. I said, well, just go for it. And I ended up getting through and honestly panicked and thought, okay, now I'm going to need some wrestling experience. So I started training nearly a year ago now at IPW school and now at the Lucha Britannia school, the Lucha School Lucha Libre. But the getting into a TNA Gut Check straight away with no experience was quite daunting.
I'm not surprised. I mean, there are wrestlers who've been wrestling for a long time who probably don't think they've necessarily got enough experience to apply for something like that, and you just apply for it with absolutely no wrestling experience at all.
Yeah, I originally thought I'd apply as valet manager and see what would go along, but luckily with the school that I went to, everything I had been taught that week was shown in that because they just wanted to see the basics of everyone. So I was kind of lucky in that sense that I've already kind of seen what was going to happen in a way to kind of judge everything.
It looks like, just from the photos that we've seen about TNA Gut Check and you doing it, you'd already got yourself some gear as well, and you already look like you're in shape. So it looks like this is something, you look after yourself as far as fitness is concerned anyway. This wasn't something like, now I've got to get in shape.
No, I originally was going to get into bodybuilding, but wrestling took over. So I already pretty much had gym training and dieting down to a T. So it wasn't too hard.
So I'm just trying to get my head around this. You got into the gut check thing, and then you went to, you said it was at the IPW school first time. Did you just call them and say, listen, I'd like to come and start wrestling. By the way, I've got a TNA tryout next week?
It pretty much was like that when I turned up. Yeah.
I love that. I love just the fact that you had no fear and you went for it. What was the gut check experience like then?
It was great. It was amazing. Now knowing, not being from that kind of the wrestling industry, it was like a family. It was quite nice meeting D'Lo Brown. He's a very nice guy. He's very humble. And it ended up being a conversation for about 10 minutes about Batman, which was kind of a surreal moment. But it was really fun. It was really interesting to kind of see like some of the British wrestlers that I now know that they actually go to my school, or I know them from Lucha Britannia. So it's good to be part of that experience.
Were you the only girl there?
Yeah, I was, which I kind of found a bit weird.
Yeah, just a little bit. But D'Lo was interested in your Batman sleeve tattoo, I suppose, yeah?
Yeah. He's a big, comic book geek, and he knew instantly, like he saw my tattoo, which was quite interesting. We were just having a general talk about comics. All
right, I'm going to bite. Everyone asks you, I'm sure, but that Batman tattoo is awesome.
It's very striking, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when did you get it, first of all, and how did you think, okay, what I want in my life is a sleeve with the Joker on it?
I've had it for about 3 years now. I've always wanted tattoos, and everyone always puts in experiences or passions of theirs on tattoos. I didn't want to kind of go for the conventional girly tattoos because that's just not me. So I thought, okay, what is really a passion in my life? And it's Batman comics. I've always been into it since I was about 5 years old. So I thought, okay, I'll just pick some kind of ideas for my tattoo artist for him to make me a sleeve, basically.
It is an amazing piece of artwork, though, if you look at it. How long did it take for it to be done?
Oh, God, probably over 25 hours at least, I think. It's taken a while. I think the longest sitting I've sat there for was about 7 hours.
Good God. Again, the other thing that's coming through again is that, you want to get into wrestling, you don't go half-assed, you go right for a TNA gut check. You want a tattoo. You don't just get, like, a little tattoo, you get a whole
like
sleeve.
A star on the wrist or something.
Yeah. So, again, I like the determination. But
then also, as far as the Batman, I'm going to say obsession, because, if you get a sleeve full of Batman tattoos, it's probably going to be an obsession. You've also got photos of yourself modelling as Harley Quinn as well.
Yes, I got a email from a photographer saying he had this project that he was doing, which involved me being body painted up as Harley Quinn, which was quite interesting.
Well, yeah, you could say that, yeah. So let's move back to the wrestling for a little bit then. So the initial training you said was through IPW, but you're mostly sort of trained through the London School of Lucha Libre, is that right? Under Greg Burridge?
Yes, Greg Burridge and Gary Vanderhorn, and they're amazing teachers. Greg, who's the head teacher of the school, he's fantastic. He's taught me a lot, and he doesn't, he's strict, but to a point of kind of like, we're all friends, but, you need to get this right. So it's kind of, it's a nice, strict teacher.
I guess. How easy did it come to you then, when you actually got down to the nitty-gritty of trying to wrestle and put together matches and stuff? Did it come easy, or is it something you find difficult?
I have found it difficult. I think people are at different levels, and people have different skills, so it's easy for some people, it's harder for others. But with Greg Burridge as a teacher, he's always said, he's always got us doing match structure quite early. So it's kind of lucky I've had that experience from him.
From there, then, I mean, you've worked on some of the Lucha Britannia shows as well. I mean, I've only been to one Lucha Britannia show. It was a little bit ago, so it's before you would have been on the shows. But they're quite a unique experience. For those of the people listening who've never been to one of the Lucha Britannia shows in London, explain a little bit about what it's like there.
Lucha Britannia, basically, it's a character-based, very character-based, very kind of cabaret, comedy, but there's different styles. So there is the Lucha Libre, there is the British wrestling, and then there's a slight hint of Japanese wrestling in there as well. But it's a very close-knit family. Like everyone's friends. We all see each other once a month, and we always ask how is everyone, and it's very interesting. It's very different from what's going on at British wrestling right now, which is a very, very good thing. And it's just a lot of fun. It's fun to be part of the shows. It's fun just to be in the audience, because I started off just being one of the trainees that sits there and just watches the whole show, and it's very, very, very fun. And I advise everyone to go to one at least.
Adults only as well, though, by the way. There's some cabaret things there that maybe not suitable for the younger members of the audience.
Not suitable for the younger members, but there is some shows. We do some shows, which I have been on one that was they do under 18s shows, but also the London School of Lucha Libre is also doing shows now, which is for kind of the under 18s. So you get to see the upcoming stars of Lucha Britannia possibly, or just the upcoming stars of British wrestling.
Well, we're talking to you because you're going to be debuting in as far as Pro Wrestling Eve is concerned, at a SWE show on December the 10th. But you, as far as bringing it to Lucha Britannia, you've also had some experience of wrestling some Eve talent there, as far as Jenny Britannico is concerned, who Eve fans might know more as Super Jenny B.
I've known Janie since I started training, basically. We've always been paid up in lessons. And she's great. I love working with her.
Well, what is it that you like about it? Because I know that there's some people that you find it's a bit awkward working with somebody. Is it just a case that you and Janie click?
Yeah, we definitely click, and it's kind of weird. She gets to practice things with someone who's stronger and slightly bigger than her, so I can base a lot of her moves. Where I can work with someone who's smaller than me to get used to holding, basing moves and lifting someone up, which I generally don't get to do in my school because there's only about 4 of us girls. A lot of the guys are bigger than us.
I guess you probably had that same experience of wrestling people who are bigger than you when you did New Scene Wrestling recently, and you were in a triple threat match, which also included Alpha Female.
Yes, I've talked to Alpha Female a couple of times on Facebook. We've never actually met. We've always kind of chatted on Facebook, so it was nice meeting her. But yeah, she's a strong girl. And I enjoyed working with her. She's a lot of fun. And
on the Southside show coming up then next month, you're going to be taking on Nikki Storm. Do you have much of a chance to check out or see any of Nikki's work before? Because she's going to be a completely different proposition to Alpha Female.
I have heard of Nikki, and I've seen a few clips and photos of her, but I've never watched her match live or been on a show that she's been on. So it'll be interesting to work with her. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. And
so this marks your addition onto the Pro Wrestling Eve roster. So hopefully, if everything goes to plan, you should be on future Eve shows as well. Again, I assume in 2012 now you're going to be looking to branch out as many places as possible. Is that be fair? Would that be fair?
Yeah, definitely.
What's the ultimate aim for you? I mean, obviously, as I say, you started high with the TNA gut check. Are you still in the back of your head thinking about what you like to do with this career, or are you just playing it day by day and seeing how far you go?
I definitely want to get far in it. I definitely want to kind of see myself in the big company. I would love to work for a big company. But I definitely am enjoying who I'm working for now as well. So it's giving me that experience to eventually reach that goal.
But you're determined that you'd like to try and make a career out of this rather than just be a pastime, yeah?
Definitely. I'm definitely determined to make this a career. I train at least 3 days a week wrestling training, and then going to the gym 5-6 days a week, and the dieting, the just basically just getting the best that I can for me, and the best advice I can get for myself to kind of take this seriously. And I definitely am the aspects of training and trying to get myself there. I'm definitely determined to do that.
When you say that, I guess there may be the odd critic who may know a bit more about you. I mean, you mentioned the modelling earlier on, and we also talked about Lucha Britannia as far as being an adult show. I mean, you do some kind of adult modelling as well. Do you think that might maybe be sort of a hindrance to getting to one of the big companies like you mentioned?
Possibly, but hopefully that will just be kind of in the past. That's how I want to see it as. And I know I can't erase everything, but it's kind of like I want to prove that I am a wrestler. I'm not this anymore. I'm taking wrestling seriously.
So have you stopped doing the sort of adult modelling side of things then, or is this something...
No, I've pretty much retired, so I'm definitely taking wrestling to be my kind of occupation now.
I guess it's one of these things. Well, I think I heard something, maybe, I can't remember which wrestler said it. It was a long time ago, but they said something along the lines of, you can't stop talent. So I guess it doesn't matter whatever past you have or whatever you've done in the past. I mean, everybody's got a past, for instance. So, all it should matter is how good of a wrestler you are and how talented you are in the ring. Yes,
definitely. There's a lot of big names out there that have come from kind of backgrounds that you wouldn't expect for them to be such big names. So if your talent's there, everything else shouldn't matter really.
Excellent. Well, tell you what, I mean, we will wish you all the best for your show coming up on 10th of December. It's at Gym Combat Nottingham again for anybody who can make their way along. That was the same location as the Eve versus Ice Ribbon shows recently as well. And keep us up to date with what you're doing, with how it's going, and let us know how this match goes for you as well.
Oh, I definitely will do.
And thanks very much for giving us some of your time today. And hopefully a lot of the fans will get to know you a lot more this coming year. Thank you, Holly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are back on the Women of Wrestling podcast this evening with one of our irregular but always educational male guests. Bit of a renaissance man, this, when he's not training wrestlers at the Chikara Wrestle Factory. He's delivering informed opinion at the commentation station. When he's not doing that, he's main eventing on iPay-per-view or podcasting in his own right. He is Lightning Mike Quackenbush. Mr. Quackenbush, how are you?
Why, thank you for having me on the program, gents.
So it's our pleasure. You are, after all, one of the silver-tongued spokesmen of Chikara. So we got some of these Joshi Mania shows coming up next weekend. We want to have a bit of a chat to you, a little bit of hype central, if you will, for people who perhaps are either going and want to get excited, or perhaps people who are in the area of the shows who have not yet made that decision to pop along. Maybe we can educate them a little bit about what they can expect.
Sure.
Before we start, let's get the facts out there first. Joshi Mania taking place across 3 nights, December 2nd, December 3rd, December 4th. December 2nd is going to be in the Asylum Arena, South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which will be forever known to at least a certain cadre of your fan base as the ECW Arena. December 3rd, Everett Rec Center, Everett, Massachusetts. December 4th, the Highline Ballroom at West 16th Street in the Big Apple, Manhattan, New York. And, Mike, simple question first of all. Joshi Mania, what can fans expect?
Well, Joshi Mania will consist of, among other things, 12 female wrestlers from Japan that are coming to the U.S., several of them for the very first time in their careers. And they'll be aided and abetted, supported by the usual clowns from Chikara, like myself. And a lot of our super talented folks as well. In fact, our own Sarah Del Rey will be featured in 2 of the 3 main events of Joshi Mania, and she has an experience both wrestling and training in Japan as well. So it's certainly, as we're calling it, it's a post-season extravaganza. That is to say, the season proper of Chikara has come to an end. It concluded on November 13th in our first pay-per-view called High Noon. So this is sort of taking place after the fact, and it's really like a weekend to sort of celebrate the female competitors, and we're fortunate enough to have some of the very finest fighting females anywhere in the world on these 3 cards.
Chikara is one of those places where female talent's always been given an absolute equal billing with the guys. No more so has that been seen recently with Sarah Del Rey's recent run in the 12 Large Summit. What's your opinion of female wrestling in Chikara?
Well, I think we're very fortunate in that we've had great female competitors gravitate to us over the years, and Sarah Del Rey is like an obvious indicator of that, and we've had others over the years. Daisy Hayes was a regular with us for many, many years, and I think part of the reason that we attract competitors like that is many years ago, there was sort of an equalization of the playing field when we just said we think weight classes in professional wrestling are kind of ridiculous. We think division by gender. It's all kind of beside the point, and it should be equal. And we were surprised how immediately there were female competitors who said, "This is where I want to be," because for whatever reason, if they felt that the female competition in their home region was lacking, or because they were really tantalized by the idea of testing themselves against some of the best male wrestlers out there. And apart from, there has been some resistance to it. I mean, it certainly hasn't been, all leprechauns and rainbows. There have definitely been people who've said no. They cried foul. There should never be, male versus female violence or things of that nature. And to me, this is only my personal opinion. That strikes me as being very outdated rhetoric. So we're very proud of the fact that the ladies are billed and treated equally as the male wrestlers, and they're given all the same opportunities to prove themselves that any male wrestler would have.
This is something that sort of came to be in sort of the early days of Chikara, because in the early days there was also Kyoku Pro, which is almost like an all-women's version of Chikara, but then they sort of merged together and Kyoku just sort of ceased to exist, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. It just didn't seem like there was a point to the separation. I think, not to characterize Chikara as a catch-all, but that it should be wide open. I think it allows itself, or perhaps it lends itself to more vast and varied, whatever you want to say, storytelling or things of that nature when everybody gets to play together. When you say, the heavyweights are going to be over here and the junior heavyweights go over here, and the guys, you come over here and the girls, you go over there, and you, the tree, the dragon, and the giant cabana, you go over there, and the humanoids come over here. I think it might be more fun if we all got together to play.
You mentioned about women gravitating towards Chikara. One big name that's gravitated towards Chikara recently is Manami Toyota. Tell us a bit about how that relationship came about.
We were really fortunate in that, this is over a year ago or so, we were paid a visit by Itsuki Yamazaki of the Jumping Bomb Angels. And she, since retiring from the ring, I'm sure you know that she and her partner are retired, she has settled into New York City. And just as it happened, her son is quite a wrestling fan, and this somehow led her to discovering Chikara. And she'd expressed to us the idea that she'd always longed to help bring some of the biggest stars of Joshi to the United States, for them to have the opportunity to showcase their talent here, but there had never really been a place that she felt would be an appropriate fit for them. She, by and large, I think, perhaps frowned upon the way a lot of the female stars of wrestling were treated or showcased in other wrestling companies, but something about our particular aesthetic was very appealing to her, and she really helped open the doors for all of this to happen. And in fact, it's really like an extrapolation of that dream of hers that led to Joshi Mania. She was really the driving force behind getting, you can imagine, I mean, I think we have, it's 5 or maybe it's 6 different Joshi wrestling offices in Japan cooperating, in addition to a couple freelancers. You know, Manami Toyota, for example, is a freelancer right now. Ayako Hamada is freelance right now. It requires someone with enormous influence in those circles to even open the door for something like that to happen. And so in that regard, you know, we're very much indebted to her. And even though obviously it was Yamazaki, as I said, who opened the door, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the Toyota experience, not just as a great Manami Toyota fan, but once the door was open, the very first thing she said was, "I'm going to be able to wrestle the men, right?" You know, that was very appealing because certainly, you know, just to tell you a little bit about it, we've certainly had female competitors who have come to Chikara before, and that they either personally or, you know, someone from their home office has said, you know, it is our guideline that these females do not wrestle against male wrestlers. To give you an example of that, we had two great stars from Ice Ribbon who visited us back in the summer months, and their home office was very implicit about the fact that they did not want their stars to be in there against male wrestlers. They said we would prefer that they only be in there with female competitors. And of course, you know, we would abide by something like that. But it's always very appealing to us when you get somebody, you know, of course the stature of Manami Toyota is impossible to refute as a legend, but when that's, you know, kind of like the first thing that she says, like, I'm going to get to wrestle the men, right? You know, you can't help but admire that.
Just even the way that you put that across there, the voice or the inflection you had in your voice there gives the impression that she was, you know, really excited to do this. And that's one thing that, from seeing her matches in Chikara both last year and this, she looked like she was so pleased to be there. She looked like she was having the absolute time of her life. And for someone who is, you know, regarded as perhaps the greatest wrestler that's ever lived, male or female, it must have been particularly gratifying for you to see her coming into Chikara and saying, look, this place is awesome.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, no one regards me as the greatest wrestler, male or female, to have ever lived. But I do appreciate the invitation.
Yeah.
So, you're right. Obviously, when we have special guests like a Manami Toyota that come in and they really embrace what it is that we're about. Perhaps you could characterize it as being a slightly more progressive mindset than other companies possess, and that they find some elements of inspiration in that. It's particularly rewarding. And I've been so fortunate in that so many of the people that I've idolized over the years, including Manami Toyota, who's hands down, in my opinion, the greatest female wrestler of all time, it's so rewarding. You know, especially after that first time that she came over for us at Chikara, and she wrestled for us in Baltimore, Maryland, and then in New York City, New York. You know, I don't know that we went maybe a full 8 weeks, and we heard from her, and she said, "You didn't forget about me, right? You know, we're going to get to do this again, aren't we? We've got to find some other thing to do." And you know, and of course it's also very flattering for me because someone like a Manami Toyota or anyone of that type of stature, they said, you know, the next time I come back, I would really rather be doing something like this. For her to say, you know, I think we should team up more often, or, you know, do you think there's something that we could do together for King of Trios or something like that's exceptionally flattering, just to be, you know, included in the thought process of someone that you admire and respect as I do Manami Toyota. Speaking of
intergender matches, we got a couple of them coming up at Joshi Mania on each day. In fact, yourself and Toyota will team with the Colony against Fist and Portia Perez on day number 2. Looks like a tremendous match. Cherry and the Colony are going to team against Toshi Uematsu and the Batiri on day 3. And a particularly interested to see the interactions between Team JWP and Peck and the ice creams on day one.
Mm-hmm. And something of note, and you may have covered this for your listeners already, that originally one of the key representatives from JWP, in fact, their acting president, was to be part of Joshi Mania, Command Bolshoi. And unfortunately, I believe it's due to back injury. Bolshoi was unable to join us, which is of course a disappointment anytime, performers unable to appear due to injury. And so the JWP office instead has sent Kaori Yoneyama, who you'll see, of course, is part of that JWP team that you just alluded to. And she is set to retire. In fact, before 2012 dawns, she will have wrestled her last match. And so this will mark not only her first, but most likely her last visit to the United States as well as an active wrestler. So it's even a little more special for us in that regard that we get to have Yoneyama as part of Joshi Mania with her retirement looming near.
She's not the only one actually that's got retirement looming as well. Toshi Uematsu, she'll be retiring in 2012 as well. She gave her 12-month countdown earlier this year, so it could be a last chance to see her as well.
Yes, I do believe that will be the case. By all indications, this will be Uematsu's final visit to the U.S. as well. So yeah, it's little bits like that which make the entire affair even more special for us. And likewise, as we mentioned, Bolshoi was injured, so too is Meiko Satomura, the top star, and also now most recently became the acting president of Sendai Girls in Japan, has suffered an injury as well. She broke her ankle. And while she will be coming along, she will be in attendance, she's unable to wrestle. And so, it was quite lucky that at the last minute a more than suitable replacement, I think, in Ayako Hamada was found. And we've been very, very pleased in that, I think we've been able to collect a lot of the top name talents from Japan that people would like to see, to the very best of our ability with circumstances, injuries and whatnot notwithstanding.
Well, Ayako Hamada is going to be in 2 of the 3 main events over the Joshi Mania weekend. She's going to be wrestling Aja Kong on December the 3rd, and she's going to be wrestling Del Rey on December the 4th. So she's going to be sort of very involved in these top line matches. It seems like when you also throw in the fact that there's Del Rey versus Aja Kong on the first night, there's some really strong main events there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm glad that you feel that way, and hopefully, the fans of the Joshi style and of the great fighting females like these world round will feel the same way about it, because, as you can imagine, trying to get cooperation from all these disparate offices and coordinating a tour like this for all these ladies, very few of whom speak any English whatsoever, bringing them to the U.S. for a set number of days and asking for several of the companies, the home offices, are actually closing down their operations in Japan to allow Joshi Mania to happen, because we have so many of the top attraction females from Japan coming over to be part of this, whether it's Toyota, Aja Kong, Ayako Hamada, Mayumi Ozaki, etc., etc.
Out of the 3 main events, as a Joshi fan yourself, which one would be the one that you would say that's the one I'm looking forward to? Could you even pick that out?
Well, I'm very interested to see Sarah Del Rey against Aja Kong. In that, Sarah, who had trained previous to coming to Chikara Wrestle Factory, but also spent quite a bit of time training there. Something I grew to understand about her was her idolization of Aja Kong. And so, because it has that really interesting subtext to it, that match is particularly compelling to me. That's not in any way to slight the others, which I'm sure are all fantastic matches, but that one in particular has caught my interest.
It's Christmas 23 days early for Sarah Del Rey.
Indeed, indeed.
Of the people who are coming over, there's quite a mix of styles, from your heavy hitters like Aja Kong to someone like Gami, who perhaps wrestles more of a comedy style these days. There's people who've got over 25 years of experience like Mayumi Ozaki, and there are up-and-comers like Hanako Nakamori. Who else on the undercard are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see some of these hand-picked younger talents. You mentioned Nakamori, as well. Sawako Shimono from Osaka Joshi is coming as well, with a little more experience under her belt, but someone I'm relatively unfamiliar with is Cherry. And certainly I've seen a lot of fans are really, really interested to see Mio Shirai, who is perhaps best known as a tag partner for Kana. Now I think they're defunct. I could be mistaken. A group called Triple Tails.
I believe you're correct.
So I'm very interested, of course, to see them. I would always be. It would make no difference if you two were to come over to my house right now and you brought a pizza along and some new Joshi DVDs and said, "Are you interested to watch these?" Of course. The beauty of Joshi Mania is I get to see a lot of these people live, firsthand. I get to witness it myself. So I'm very, very interested to see. And of course, virtually everyone that's part of this was picked by their home office to be the strongest possible representative of their company. So there must be a reason for that. And it's always very interesting to see, what is it perhaps about Shimono that led the people in her home office to say, you are the one that we want to represent us at Joshi Mania. I'm intrigued to see what they bring to the table.
The thing about a show like this, and maybe just about wrestling in general, is you may find a name that you know and you like, and then through watching a show that they are featured on, you may find somebody else who you're interested in, and then go off and do some more research about them. And Joshi Mania, it just seems to be sort of the classic example of that. Like you said about someone like Shimono, you don't know that much about her, but you're very interested to find out. And if you do like her, you may go off and find out some more about her.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, this is a big step forward for Chikara as an organization, in that I think we're trying to let the world know that we're open for business, so to speak. In that last year, for example, or I'm mistaken, it's still this year. It's still 2011, gents. In case your calendars had turned. We had the opportunity to work with a lot of foreign offices throughout the year, whether it was at King of Trios, whether it was at Chikarasaurus Rex, and we've really been, I think, concentrating more on building bridges internationally so that we can be the ones that really provide the most cosmopolitan blend of wrestling styles. As I feel like, and I think this is something that's widely held at Chikara, that there really isn't a company that represents that nexus point anymore. Because if you look at the WWE, they're increasingly insular in the way they go about doing what they do. And, I think the few times that TNA has attempted to do something like that, it has proven to be more miss than hit.
Yes.
So, in that way, I think the time is perhaps ripe for a nexus point like that to exist. And, there are lots of different types of what you might think of as niche wrestling avenues. For example, Joshi, I think, represents one of those. Lucha Libre represents one of those. The retro British style represents one of those. These are things that appeal to a more narrow casted demographic of wrestling fans, and yet there are those fan bases out there. Those fan bases are eager for more. They are hungry to see what it is that they enjoy most of all. And even if these are all people whose tastes perhaps fall outside of what mainstream wrestling provides, it doesn't neatly fall into the bag that WWE produces, etc. Their interests remain valid. And as customers, as paying fans that, want to invest in the kind of thing that they like, they are entitled to see that type of thing. Well, no matter how incredibly niche that might be. If there's a fan base for it, then that fan base, deserves to be serviced in some way.
You talked about Chikara interacting and liaising with a lot of different companies around the world. I'm assuming that people like Manami Toyota would help along with a situation like that, because when somebody with maybe the stature and the reputation of Toyota gives the thumbs up and the seal of approval, that really does let everybody else know. Say, hey, Chikara's a good place, and they'll look after you, treat you right, and won't try and maybe make you look silly or misuse you.
Mm-hmm. And I found it exceptionally gratifying after the first time Toyota came to visit us in the autumn of last year that she went home and gave a number of interviews to the Japanese press, which some fans translated into English for us, where she effectively did just that she endorsed us in the press. And to me personally, as someone who's taken quite a great deal of inspiration from Manami Toyota, I admire and respect her in the most genuine of terms. To read her own words as she said things to the effect that she had begun to lose her passion for wrestling, but appearing with Chikara gave her the passion to compete back, to me is very rewarding.
Wow.
Because together with my then tag team partner Tom Reckless Youth Carter, when we founded Chikara Wrestle Factory, the training center that creates a lot of the stars that you see at Chikara, back in 2002, it was hard to imagine that ultimately something we played a role in could impact someone like a Manami Toyota or others of her stature in such a powerful way. So you're right in that, that really does kind of open people's eyes up, and it's also exceptionally rewarding. It's a great way for us to discover that, we're doing our jobs right.
If I gave you the opportunity, because you said that a lot of the stars on this show have been handpicked by their offices, if I gave you the opportunity to handpick any Joshi right now, other than obviously the people who are injured, who would you like to add to this show if you could?
Wow, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, a lot of my very favorites are retired. They're no longer active, which is a shame. It's if circumstances would have worked out differently, unfortunately they just didn't come together. There was at one point, I understand, a very marginal possibility that Bull Nakano could have been involved in Joshi Mania, but there were a variety of circumstances which arose which sort of prevented that from happening, unfortunately. But that to me was a very thrilling notion for the brief period of time that it seemed vital before it sort of withered on the vine. Which is a shame. As you may know, she has been preparing to come out of retirement to do perhaps like a final tour or something like that after enjoying a lot of years, I believe, as a professional golfer.
Yes.
Yeah. I think her final performance will be January 2012, I believe.
Okay. So, yeah, you know more about it than I already.
Okay. A further question then. We've got all our Joshi talents. As far as North American-based talents, we have Sarah Del Rey, as you said, a regular at Chikara. We've got Portia Perez, who returned to the company earlier this year at the Chikarasaurus Rex weekend, I believe. Could we look in 2012 to see more North American women getting integrated into Chikara? Is that something that they have to put themselves forward for and show a desire to come to your promotion?
Certainly, I think Chikara is always on the look for a new and emerging talent. I think, if anything, that's been our calling card for 10 seasons, is that we're a great showcase for emerging talent. I don't feel, and this might be my, I don't know, a misguided conceit of mine, but I don't think when people reflect on Chikara or imagine what it is that Chikara connotes in their own brains, they don't think of it as like a bunch of people hanging on their last thread who really desperately need to get out and retire. I think generally they reflect upon it as a place where new talent is developed and new stars are discovered. And I hope that will always be our legacy in that regard. And of course, to give you a little insight, as I alluded to earlier, just a few weeks ago, we did our first iPay-per-view event called High Noon. And I think, not to undermine the importance of having a veteran voice or things like that, but it was tremendously rewarding for all of us, whether someone like me, this is now coming up on my 18th year as a professional, and there were people wrestling on High Noon that really only had maybe 18 months of experience under their belt. So to contrast, or to look at that whole, the gamut that runs, all of us were really thrilled to have veteran voices like a Tommy Dreamer, and another guy who was working hard backstage with everybody was Marty Jannetty. To have those types of experienced input and everything else can only help. And I think it's things like that which will lead to better or more well-rounded wrestlers all around. When you have a great body of experience like that you can draw upon, and guys too who give of that type of advice or give constructive criticism or feedback very, very freely, that only benefits the group as a whole, and it helps young, inexperienced wrestlers develop more rapidly. And that's what we're always looking to do. We're trying to galvanize that process. We're trying to perfect that process so that ultimately, when people think about Chikara or Chikara Wrestle Factory, the training center that produces the stars of Chikara, they come to realize that this is the place to go as a new developing talent to really have the best possible forum to present yourself to the wrestling world.
Let's take a quick left turn here and just mention High Noon briefly. Not particularly under our remit, although Sarah Del Rey was on the show. Both myself and Lee both bought the show, both very much enjoyed the show. I believe I'm right in saying it's now out on DVD, is that correct?
Yes, you're correct. SmartMarkVideo.com has just released it, and of course those are region-free DVDs that they will gladly ship anywhere on the planet. So you can get High Noon in its entirety, including the pre-show bonus match that wasn't part of the pay-per-view, and at least a dozen bonus video featurettes as well, all for the giant sum of $15 US. This is an interesting thing, too. I don't mention this enough when I get to speak to our friends across the pond. Oftentimes we've had customers remark to us that it could be a tad bit cost prohibitive to engage through our DVDs because of shipping costs.
Yes.
And you might be interested to know that the way that the SmartMark Video website is set up, it's either 5 or 6 DVDs cost exactly the same to ship overseas as one. So if you were going to put an order together, it behooves you to order 5 or 6 at a time because you'll get the best bang for your buck when it comes to the shipping.
I've noticed that in the past, in fact, yes. Much use when King of Trios comes out, for example. You can order all 3 nights for the shipping price of one. Mm-hmm. King of Trios actually was a DVD that was turned around in 24 hours and was available for shipping by the Monday. Would it be too much to suggest that Joshi Mania might be rushed through in a similar way, or would that be something that's likely to happen after the holidays?
Yeah, I don't believe that is currently in the works, and I feel secure in saying that in that as it related to King of Trios' immediate turnaround, there was an entire auxiliary staff for SmartMark Video that was brought in from another part of the country that worked through the night every night to make that possible. And I know that crew is not coming in to the SmartMark Video offices this upcoming weekend of Joshi Mania. So, in my opinion, it's fairly unlikely that you'll see it with that level of immediacy. Nevertheless, SmartMark Video is usually pretty good within 10 working days of turning around the DVDs, and certainly they know that there's a very intrigued worldwide following for this very unique event. And so, as ever, I'm sure they will employ their typical expediency in turning it around.
What sort of buzz are you getting? Because, I mean, you said already that Joshi's a very niche product. Are you getting a strong buzz? Do you have a good feeling going into this weekend that this is something that's going to be looked back on as a success?
Well, it may be too early to know. I think when all the matches are finally complete and the final bell has tolled on it, we'll be able to look back on it and say, something very special was accomplished here, or maybe we bit off more than we could chew, or I don't know. But right now, maybe too soon to know. And certainly, we've tried to emphasize to our fans that this is most likely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I think it's exceptionally unlikely that a group of talent like the talent coming to Joshi Mania, with the cooperation of all the home offices and everything else that's taking place, and just the incredible amount of logistics that go into bringing that number of non-English speakers here for any amount of time, and moving between major cities from Philadelphia to the greater Boston area, wherever it is, to New York City and everything else, is a massive, massive undertaking. And if for any reason Joshi Mania were to underperform or not perform to expectations, or not live up to perhaps with the vision that Itsuki Yamazaki had for this particular event, it's exceptionally unlikely that it will ever happen again. So if you are in the area, if you have any way to get to Philadelphia, the greater Boston area, or New York City on December 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, by all means, if this is your thing, you're going to want to be there, because without the support of fans that really do embrace this style and embrace these exceptionally talented and underappreciated performers, events like this will cease to exist.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quackenbush, one of the most well-spoken and educated spokesmen for the indie wrestling scene around the world. Very much thank you for your time today. Wish you all the best, and all of your staff and all of the travelling talent as well for Joshi Mania. We will cover it to the best of our ability on the website, and hopefully we will have some cause to have you back on the show again sometime